which was the name change postponement. And the motion is the council postpone any further action regarding the request to change the name of the city of Powell River. The first regular council meeting in November 26th after the inaugural meeting. And so again, we'll go around the table and we'll start with Councilor Palm and come this way. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, Your Worship, just a couple of comments, and that is seeing this motion and where we are in the process, knowing full well that a lot of education is taking place in this regard, and knowing full well that the Wahanan people have expressed their opinion many times that they do not want to see an opinion poll because of the outcome that may result, which would only disrupt things more and divide us more in our community. I support this motion wholeheartedly and attempt to calm the waters until next council can deal with it. And then if they so choose, they can put a strong education program forward. And there we go.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's safe to say none of us, all of us would agree that we not made the progress on this matter like we intended 3 years ago when we started deliberating our strategic priorities. We've now got to a position staff-wise where we have a little bit more capacity or getting to more capacity, but you know, we also know that there's an election in 9 months' time or 8 months' time. So we're not going to make a ton of progress on this matter. My concern with passing this is that it prevents us from even making a nudge on something as simple as getting a report or of some kind that could then benefit the future council. I can understand maybe that's all we get, and maybe we don't even get that far. But that would be my concern with this was it would prevent us from even having something to move it forward versus just passing it over to whoever takes over the council in 9 months' time.
Okay. What to do? Should I follow on the other two people asking questions that turned out to be debate? Or should I actually ask a question? I'm going to take the risk of asking a question and trying to give my opinions on questions. What does this mean? It says council postpone any further action regarding the request to change the bill after 2026 election. So is that a reconsideration of council's strategic priority to take significant action towards a name change and having a public opinion poll in 2026? Will it negate that? Reconsideration of that? Or is it just simply to do nothing? And that means we don't do anything between now and 2026. We don't do anything about the opinion poll. I'd like to know what they, yeah, we're all on top of this. What have we decided to do? Looking at the CAO and the corporate.
Are you looking at me? Okay, I thought you were asking.
If I was making reconsideration motion, I'd write down what I want to do.
Okay, I thought you were asking the mayor since it was his motion.
Mayor, and answer, I'd like to hear that one.
All right. The answer is I had discussions with staff about the requirement it would take to put together a meaningful public opinion poll before the election. And the consensus was we have many other priorities, and that it didn't seem that there would be adequate time and resources in order to do this. So that was my rationale for bringing this forward.
And I didn't really hear an answer. I think what you're saying is you don't think there's time to do anything between now and 2026. You don't want to have the public opinion poll with the 2026 election. You don't want to take any action between now and then. Am I right about?
From a staff perspective, if this motion was to move forward, what it would mean is that we wouldn't move forward on drafting the report, doing the work in title, are able to move this forward. Whether it actually moved forward or not would be up to council, but the next steps, as outlined when this came forward in the fall, was we had to wait until we had a replacement for Callie's position on board, which is Susan, and she's come on board. And then what would have happened would have been a report from council saying, if we do anything, this is what we can do. But the chances of us being able again to do a fulsome process as was envisioned, I believe, back when council started this process is very limited. So again, if this motion is passed and it says council postpone any further action, as CAO, I would say put down our pens on this one. Let's wait till after the election before doing any more work on this.
Tell you what I think of your idea now. I don't know what the idea is. I think we made a decision as part of our strategic priorities. We made it very late, but we made a strategic decision to try to do something about the name change and to have an opinion poll 2026 election. We did that after a lot of discussion. After about 3 years, 2 or 3 years of discussion about what our priorities should be as a council, when we came up with that modified idea. And then we came down and we announced to everybody that this was one of our priorities. Didn't explain the timetable or what we were going to do. We just said, this is our priority. And we heard all kinds of stuff from people who have been campaigning and getting petitions for a vote were angry at us because they thought that we would do something inappropriate. I heard the Council at Ratepayer Association meeting, the council was planning to have an opinion poll and then not tell people what the results were, so that nothing would happen. It was much more interesting. But to me, it was surprising for me was how angry the people that wanted the vote after the 26 election were. The council said we were going to try to have. The other thing that surprised me is all the other people who actually wanted name change saying, can't do this. You can't do it by having a opinion poll, because that's asking the wrong people. But some of the people who were saying you can't have an opinion poll are the ones that are asking councils because they changed the name. But to me, the logic there is don't ask all the people who call what they think. Just ask these 7. I don't know how an opinion poll of the entire city could be less valid than the opinion poll of 7 council. But that's just my opinion. I think we've done nothing on the idea that they changed. There's a gesture that is still bothering the community. I don't know how many people in the room downstairs were there for energy forest stuff, or whether they were there to argue against the boundary, or whether they were against whatever was doing name change, because just the people being against whatever we do. Actually, I would like to honor the request that the planning gave and try to think about what the city could do. I can think of some things we could do. We could have some kind of respectful dialogue. Rob, Councillor Fuscott tried to do that with a roundtable meeting, which was, I thought, successful. But again, people were saying, well, it's one side of the issue, getting together and talking to themselves. A few disagreements here and there. But different ways you can do that. And you can, one idea that came up recently was talking to a bunch of people. Was to actually have one or more debates. Not town hall meetings where people get together and yell at each other, but debates where you get 3 people on one side, people on the other side, lay out their facts, and question each other's fact discussion. Back again 2 weeks later, maybe with some different people, but at least we try to do something and move it forward. And then we're missing an opportunity to bring the community together if we don't try to do something. We just sit around. Before, along the lines of early discussion, I picked up from somewhere that we would have to have some kind of demonstration for the provincial government. If the city actually wanted to change its name, we'd have to have some indication from the public. A lot of people have said, well, that would be a referendum. Opinion poll or something. Latest information that we can't share with anybody that I've managed to glean is that you just have to make the provincial government happy. That's what everybody in town wants. And I don't know how you do that without even having any kind of discussion, any kind of vote. I'm in favor of going ahead, but leaving the priority as the priority is, trying to do what we can, seeing if we actually can create something by October 6th. We know it's going to, I know it's going to be an election issue. Some people hope it's going to go away if we don't do anything. I don't think that's what we do not.
So before we move to the next question, it's 26 minutes to 10. We have items left. If it's 5 minutes to 10 and we still have items left, we then have a ask for unanimous motion to continue on.
Mr. Mayor, the procedure bylaw states that if we don't have a council or a closed meeting, then the council meeting starts at 7 and can go until 10:30 without any motion to extend.
Thank you. Councilor. Oh, yeah, do you have a comment, question?
I do, yeah. So I think right at this point in time, we had a motion, as our CEO mentioned, to ask staff for a report that would explain what the recommendations were for an engagement process and leading up to an opinion poll, what that would take, budget, all the other things, how much time we would need. And I'm still in favor of receiving that report. So my preference would be, and I also want to point out that I agree with the mayor that it's unlikely that we can do an opinion poll after that selection due to the fact that we haven't done the engagement and set it up properly, and we're late in the game now. So I totally agree with them there. I know that the issue's not going away. I would like to receive the report, and so my preference would be to consider this or postpone this until we've received that report and then consider it at that time. So that would be my preference.
Sorry, through the chair, just for clarity, there is no motion to bring forward a report. There was a motion brought forward when this item came up to bring a report forward, which was defeated. And the only thing was I said in terms of next steps, what staff would be working toward with the report, but there is no actual motion on the books for a report to be done. There was a motion made to have the report done, but it was defeated, just for clarity.
Oh, I didn't remember that, but I thought we had a motion to amend or to bring a report forward along with something else, and then it got changed to, it got defeated, and then we had another motion after that,
No.
just for the report. But that's my apologies.
Yeah.
I would prefer a motion to receive a report, actually, but I'd love to postpone this until we have some advice from staff about timelines, resources, and everything in order to proceed. And once we have the information we need to consider this question, I think it would be better timed at that time.
Thank you, Mayor. So I share agreement with a lot of my colleagues on council here in a lot of different ways. I think that if it's going to be an election issue, whether or not, no matter what happens, the issue and the opportunity is not going away. But I, one, firmly believe that we don't have enough time to do the proper engagement Councillor Pong spoke to get to the place where we have an opinion poll. And also that would lead to a pretty horrible election cycle. were there to be some sort of opinion poll, I would love for it to not be tied to an election cycle because I think, especially without that robust engagement, it's going to be pretty hurtful, I think, for our community to do that. And so I, that's one of the things on my mind. I support the mayor's motion. And also, I'm wondering if we could still tie in there the opportunity to respect the motion and not contravene it, in that council doesn't do any action. We don't take any vote, except perhaps that in this time, staff can prepare a report, but that report doesn't get delivered until perhaps the next council or before council, but we don't do anything on it until after that first regular council meeting of November. So I did check in with staff about an amendment that would be aligned with the original motion and its intent to postpone council to have any further action, but still provide staff direction to limit their actions to preparing a report on a potential framework for engagement strategy. So the amendment that I'm going to offer is that after the that clause, that subject to staff being directed to limit their actions to preparing a report on a potential framework for engagement strategy, because no matter what happens next, that is the next step. We need a report on what the ideas Councillor Dowd shared. These are all fantastic ideas. You need some direction and some professional recommendations on what that engagement could look like, so that a council, whether it's this council or the next one, can make some decisions on how much money to spend, whether they want to do it at all, which direction that they want to take. So, so my amendment to add those. Well, actually, now I'm speaking to the amendment without it being seconded. I apologize, Mayor. That's my intention. That to respect the original intent of the mayor's motion, and that council will postpone any further action, but that staff are able to spend time and are being directed to prepare a report on a potential framework for engagement strategy. And I'm hoping that's a way to kind of do two things. We make some progress, but we're not voting on that progress. Just staff can start the work that maybe we had been hoping for a couple of years ago. So that's my intention with this amendment.
So Mia and then Doug.
Thank you. This amendment falls in line with my thought process. I can recognize where we don't have enough time or capacity to get to an opinion poll. I think we could have probably agreed to that a year ago. This at least would prevent the future council from having to start at ground zero, so to speak, and give them and we'd still have to, as the CAO said, we'd still have to request a report, but at least it gives us a position to give a little bit of momentum to whoever sits at the council table after October.
Just for clarity, to our corporate officer, is it clear that Councillor Isaacson put forward an amendment? Council Amita has seconded that amendment. Let's go over that right now.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Councillor Doug.
Well, my concern with this amendment is Councillor Isaacson thinks it says what it actually says. That is that if, subject to, if staff is directed to limit their action, then council will postpone it. It doesn't direct staff to write a report. All it says is if staff writes a report,
Where's the if?
council will postpone this. And I'm not sure that's what council I do.
To our corporate officer.
To Councillor Dowd's point, you could simply put another motion on the floor to subsequently, if this passes, it is subsequently direct staff to do that.
And maybe a vote. Maybe this will pass And maybe the next one will pass, but maybe not.
Okay, so just before, I like this amendment, and I think that any council initiatives is going to significantly again increase divisiveness in our community. So I support this. Yes, Councilor. And then Bob.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering if it would be more clear if it just said subject to staff being directed to prepare a report on, rather than limit their actions, because I'm wondering if that could be interpreted to limit part of the regular business around answering questions and you dealing with the public. Because it's, and I'm not sure that our intentions would be limit beyond what they would normally do. So my question is whether limiting their actions is maybe not quite what we wanted to say, but rather that we want to be able to get the subject to staff being directed to prepare a report on a potential framework for an engagement strategy. Council postpone any further action regard. So that would be a friendly amendment, I think.
There are no such friendly amendment. Everyone has to be by the court of the saying so that twice so many people said friendly amendment.
To review.
No friendly.
I don't think you can amend amendments.
Yeah, there can be a sub amendment. One sub amendment.
To remove, limit their actions and change preparing a report to prepare a report.
Let's bring that up. And Councilor Pond.
Okay. Thank you, through the chair. Just waiting to see what this new amendment actually says. Yeah, so I'm not going to be voting in favor of this new amendment. I like the previous one because I'm listening to staff. And all of our staff, most of them in this room are new. And this is the first time they're actually dealing with this subject. We have had ministry people in our midst prior to this telling us we need a robust educational perspective before even talking about name change. So I like the limited action approach that doesn't put staff in the pinch, because I'm hearing the CAO saying we perhaps have other more serious issues to deal with at this point in time, and time is limited till the end of this term. So, you know, I'm not going to support the new direction here to put stuff in the line of fire here, creating something that's going to also foster further division.
Okay, so we have an amended amendment. Councilor Soto.
Just to be clear, we're speaking to the amendment to the amendment.
Yes, striking the limit
Yeah.
their actions.
And seconded, Councilor Miss.
I'll second the amendment to the amendment.
I want to speak to the, when we get to them.
Okay, Councilor Doe, you want to talk to the amended amendment?
I would just like to make the general comment that I'd be way happier if we were to, scratch our heads for a little while, maybe do some thinking outside of just seeing which line we should cross out, and which one we should add, to try to get the concept that we want to do. I think I would be far happier if we were directing staff to do something and subsequently making a decision to postpone or not. We have language. This language, we could pass it or not pass it, and that doesn't necessarily make any difference to anything we're doing. And we could amend the amended amendments all day, and we still wouldn't be at anywhere that actually comes to an action. Right? I think we're better off spending time trying to figure out what action we want to do or not do.
Okay, we have our CAO, and hopefully we'll call the motion.
Yeah, I would agree that this is a bit confusing and not the best process moving forward, and it's not clear from a staff perspective exactly what that really says. And that rather than amending an amendment and doing it, that we try to deal with the first one up there, and if people aren't not in favor of it, vote it down and bring forward a new amendment, or can we bring forward or a new motion, even though it's. Or is it just amendments that can be done? We have to do the whole amendment thing?
If the mayor's motion, whether it's amended or not, is voted down, someone could put a motion on the floor to do something different.
Councillor Sutton,
Along the same lines.
we call the motion.
Thank you, Richard. I have one small thing to say. We as a group have a very poor track record on fixing things. And when we try to fix things, we start making things more complicated. And that is what we have a poor track record on, is we crash it. I wasn't of a mind to support the original motion, but I've changed my mind on that because I basically lost hope. But amending the original motion just takes me farther down that route. So I can't support any amendment that I can conceive of to this. I'd love to, but that's where I'm at with this. And I'll speak to the original motion if we ever get to that.
Councillor Mealy.
I think to address what the CAO said, I don't think the purpose of this motion is to give any staff direction at all, whether it passes or not. I think this motion tells the community that now till October, no decision is going to be made from council that's going to make any further progress on name change matters. And if we want to direct staff beyond that, then we need a subsequent motion that's different. But I think this motion is really more for the community to understand that nothing is moving forward in the next 9 months.
Okay. Yes. Elliot.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. I would like to receive a report, which was why my original intent thought was, well, we could just postpone it until we get the report and then consider this exact motion. I think anything we do in preparation for actions that Councillor Dowd or any of us might like to take requires a report. And likely that report will get delivered too close to election time when we should be shutting down our activities anyways. And so I don't think postponing, telling the public that we're not going to get to it because we don't have the time we need is a good idea. I think they should know as soon as we know. However, saying all of that, I don't want this motion to be considered and then tie our hands for requiring or directing staff to make a report for next steps. So if this motion passes with or without amendments, can we still direct staff to bring forward a report, or do we tie our hands?
So the way I read it, that subject to staff being directed to prepare a report on a potential framework to engage any council, any framework for an engagement strategy. So it's the subject to, so subject to staff being directed. So I would say nothing is being postponed until you guys actually give us direction to prepare a report. So nothing's going to happen unless you direct us to prepare a report. And I think it was Councillor Dowdy said that it doesn't actually do anything because it requires a follow-up. So it's just not
without that
super helpful. So the answer is that with that right now, we're not going to be doing anything unless you guys do a subsequent motion to direct us to write a report.
Right. My question is the whole amendment as a whole. If it's not in there and it gets rejected, would that prevent us from making a subsequent motion for a report?
Yes, I would say that it does.
So we need an amendment in order to get the report.
Well, a amendment potentially, or vote it down and bring forward an actual clear motion to staff, and also potentially ask staff about their capacity in terms of delivering it, or whether it's a good idea.
So I'm in favor of the amendment.
Okay, we have an amended motion, all in favor of the amended motion.
Oh,
The little cross out. That's what we're voting on.
Are we voting on it? You said you were calling the question amended motion. That'll be the entire wording, what's on there without wording on the amendments. If you want to vote on the amendment to the amendment, that's what we should do.
That's what you're doing, and it's just the limit their action to that you're voting.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, we'll now move to the amended motion. If we could bring that up for clarity. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just speak to it quickly. I know this is very confusing. When I spoke to the corporate officer, I was like, you know, if we vote the mayor's motion down, or if it's supported, like there's a part of it that I wanted to support. I didn't want to vote it down, but I also wanted to make space for a report. And so it's tricky if it's voted down or if it's supported as is, then we couldn't take any subsequent action to get the ball rolling. And so this awkward wording allows us to propose a subsequent action to get the ball rolling. It's totally awkward. I agree, Councillor Doe. But doing it allows us to do the thing that I feel like is in the will of the room. And I know that like the way that I read this council, when we direct, if we direct staff subsequently, this council will not see it. We are postponing any further action on our part. And so there's some space and time. There's a bit of a concern for me about the first regular council meeting of November 2026. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more leeway, but the intention here is to work within the awkward constraints of Robert's rules and motions to ensure that we get some progress going. It won't be the public engagement. It won't be the opinion poll that that council previously has supported, but it would get the ball rolling. So it's awkward, but I also think is in line with the spirit of what we passed, 2 years ago in our strategic priorities.
Okay, so we have an amended motion. All in favor?
I have a question.
All right.
I don't recall us actually voting on the amendment to this motion.
That's it.
Basically, what this is.
Talking about the amendment too.
So I'm just asking because I'm listening to what goes on. The mayor said he's calling the question on the amended motion. I thought it would be time to
The
vote on the
amendment
amendment.
to the motion. Thank you, Councillor Doe.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Was that a tie?
No.
Yes, Blaine, that's a fourth vote.
Okay. So the motion passes.
The amendment.
Amendment.
The amendment.
Okay, now we'll move to the motion as amended. All in favor? Oh, we have a question.
We've been around the Mulberry bush quite a few times. I just want to be clear. I'm not going to vote in favor of this motion. I think it's an important issue. Going to make a decision. We should make a clear decision. And this one says anything can happen after today. We could request a staff report. We could request something else. But it won't cause something to happen. It won't cause anything to happen. I'll be voting against it because it's just not clear to me.
All right. All in favor of the vote, Councillor South.
Thank you, Your Worship. it's a little difficult to wrap my head around this. I would originally have not supported the non-amended motion. For precisely the reason that was just given, and that is that it's very unlikely that this council is going to be able to act on a report that comes forward from staff. What happens next term? The book is rewritten. The problem's not going to go away. But in my view, the problem is not the one that seems to be on the surface. The problem is the division in this community. And if that isn't addressed before any question of name change that has anything to do with anyone outside of our own community, we're going to just keep failing, or whoever follows us will. So I think, you know, I'm not one to give up hope very easily, but I cannot, in spite of the fact that it goes against my grain to want to work process on this, I don't think this directs even staff and gives us any chance to do what I hoped we could do. Why I had that meeting up in Grand Hall, why I tried to get us some kind of format to do town halls, that didn't work. In my view, what I wanted to see happen has failed over and over and over again. And so I don't believe that we can achieve anything. And I wish I hadn't voted on the support the amendment, because now I can't support that.
Okay.
Just a quick comment, Councillor Slugcott, I can understand exactly where you're coming from. You've been a strong proponent of seeing something happen in this regard, but time has run out. And that's where we are, and we need to send a very, very clear message to the public. And from what I've heard from the public, they want the original motion passed so that they don't have to deal with this until next November. They don't want to have to hear about this anymore, because it's been very nice for some time now that we have not had to deal with this. I don't want to have to spend time spinning my wheels again for the next 9 months. So I support the original motion. I don't support this amendment because it's not clear to the public, and we need to be very clear where we're at, so it sends the message not only to our citizens, but it also sends a clear message to common that there is no opinion poll going to be coming out that makes anybody look that way or that way.
Okay.
Speaking to the motion on the table. I am in favor of the motion, because when a new council comes in, and this has happened a couple times to me, a brand new council comes in very late in the game in November, you get your first draft of your budget proposed to you right after you first come in. Your ability to make suggestions in that is very shortly after that. And a report that sums up all the places we've been already and the information we've received, and make some recommendations for what an engagement strategy could look like if they choose to move forward, would allow them to have an opinion right away. And they can do what the report says. They could say no to that. It's up to them. With no report, if they're trying to get anywhere at all, they'll have to get a report, and they missed the boat for a year. And so what I think this does is helps any incoming council deliberate on whether they want to move forward with some engagement in that first year or not. So it doesn't make the choices for them. It just simply sums up where we've been, all the information we have, and proposes a strategy that could be done. And we never had that strategy. We had no way to enable anything to do with anything, because we didn't have that during our council. We didn't get to that. It didn't come before us. We had capacity issues that didn't allow us to move forward. So if this is I think this is worthwhile doing. I think if this passes, I would make a motion to direct staff to bring back a report. And that won't help us do anything at all. You're right about that, but it might help in the future for the new council to consider what they want to do. It'll be up to them now. That's
Okay, we have a amended motion. So,
Yes. If you
new item,
No, yeah, it's a new thought. So I support the original motion. This doesn't tell staff how detailed or substantive a report has to be. And because of that, you know, I don't want staff to be wasting their time, frankly. I will support this because essentially it means we're directing staff to do something, whatever. No, we don't. If we then direct staff, but if we don't direct staff, then the whole thing doesn't happen. So I want to see us not go any farther with any process other than now. Obviously, the only option we have is to direct staff if we want to see the second half of this motion go forward. And so now I find myself in position or in the mindset to actually support this.
yes,
Yeah, it's that's where, it's a mind bender, this one. In the sense, like, there's like the spirit of it and then the awkward words. And again, the awkward words had to do with the nature of the original motion, which I support the intent of, and also want to see something. So what I would love to see is to pass this. That Councillor Elliott has offered to propose a subsequent motion, directing staff, again, as Councillor Southgate did, it doesn't direct them to the scale of detail, but it gets the ball rolling. And in passing that subsequent motion, the original motion that Councillor or that Mayor Wasno proposed stands, and it is supported. It's awkward, but it achieves the original intent with the addition of staff being able to work on a report of some detail.
okay, we have. Another question?
No, I don't want to extend this forever.
Okay, do you want to
I would-
call the motion then?
Don't want to extend this forever, but I would rather see council make a clear decision. If you want to make a decision to ask for staff report, I think we should do that. If we want to have something to vote on that will end up with us doing nothing, we should just say, let's do nothing, which was what the original motion was. At least that's straightforward. Says council intends to do nothing. And it doesn't say we'll do nothing unless maybe you do something else. Well, I'd rather be crystal clear.
Okay, corporate officer.
I just wanted to clarify that notwithstanding Councillor Doug's comments just now, what's on the floor is the motion as amended. So when you call the question, that's what you can vote for and nothing else. Notwithstanding, you might have liked the original motion better. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm calling the vote on the motion which is on the screen in front of us. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
I'm just gonna ask this question to staff. Would it be better for me to confer with staff on a motion that helps define what is needed to get a meaningful report and do a notice of motion and come back when I'm like off the cuff doesn't always do it the way it should. And so I've been thinking I want to make that motion, but I don't think I can't make it at the next meeting if we do a notice of motion for staff to prepare a report and then refine the wording. I'm asking procedurally if that is better for staff.
I think that what needs to be clear in the motion you make is when the intended deadline for the report is, as opposed to anything else, because it's very vague and it's unclear. And without getting into debate, it would have been, I could have probably provided some a bit more clarity about something, but if what you're looking to do is actually have staff draft a report on the name change issue for the next, to be available for the next council, including opportunities, I think something like that is fine. For me, what needs to be clear is when this is done, because then I can assign staff to do it. The challenge I have with this is that if it's not for this council really shouldn't be doing a report for the next council, because the next council has to determine whether or not this is even a priority. And I feel like this could be a big waste of staff time doing a report for a future council on something they might not even be interested in. And so it's kind of weird, to be perfectly honest, and I wouldn't recommend doing what you're doing. But if you do it, make it clear what it's going to be for, so at least we have an end game assigned it. We have a lot of stuff, a lot of things we're working on. If this is a priority for this council, really it should be for this council. If it's not for this council, it gets a bit odd.
Okay, we have 22 minutes left. We have a number of legislative matters. Can we move on? Okay, the legislative matter 11.1